go see one here.
I totally missed out on the platform.
You did?
Skipped it. Yeah. Claire, though, apparently every time she's come here, she's won. So
Yeah.
she wanted to come back so she could keep her legacy.
Did you
Yeah, that'd
compete?
been cool.
You competed just after Platling.
Yeah.
So you were back for, what was it? Was it NOC just after Platling? Was it back that way?
Yeah. NOC was sick.
Yeah.
That was a show.
Yeah,
That one
a
was
real
incredible. That was like my first year watching. I was like reserved for the juniors. I was like,
Did you
14.
think NOC was better than this one?
That's a good question. What do you think?
I never got to try out the feature. From what I heard, the feature was really tricky for like especially vertical stuff. And I think it was very different to what we have in the UK and the British features, whereas here is very similar to what we have in Nottingham. So like the British guys definitely like Platling a lot. Well, Pringle won 2011, so it seems to be a feature. Hopefully we can retain it. It should be good.
All right, let's kick the show off here. First off, welcome. We've got the man, the legend, Eric Jackson here on our first podcast, which is quite exciting. And we're also joined by Charlie Brackpool, who is in charge of the head judge for judging here at the World Championships. And Mason's by my side here, helping run the show. How you doing, Mason?
Pretty good. Stoked to be here.
Pretty awesome place, Platling. It's a beautiful town. I've never been here before. Lots of churches and the scenery is fantastic. Very green, isn't it?
It's a cool town. You can't see when I pass some money under the table, can you? Here?
That exchange has already happened. I'm making bank.
All right. So first off, what is like the energy like in the room this year for the World Championships that if y'all have seen? Like, how are the athletes feeling from a judge's perspective, from an athlete's perspective? What is the energy in the room?
I think this year, like, it feels like a big community event again. Being at a campsite, like, next to the river, like, walking through the town, seeing everyone, like, yeah, you see paddlers getting a little bit stressed on certain days, but definitely, like, the vibe seems to be everyone's chilling with everyone, getting to get to know everyone again, which is really awesome.
Yeah, there's no question that the combo of having everyone, it's a small enough town between the camping. There's like a main little hotel, the Sir Izar, whatever the name is, where I'm staying, and there's a whole bunch of paddlers there, and they're all really close. You just walk to the river, so that vibe is super fun. And then on the water, people are doing a lot of paddling and having fun. The stress levels were high because the water's low right now, so the people are hitting rocks and they're like, everybody's wondering, is the water going to get lower or higher, or rain's coming or whatever. So that is definitely a factor that seems to be a conversation that people have a lot in. But yeah, there's no question this has a smaller venue feel, which is really nice.
Do you guys remember the first time you guys have crossed paths?
It would have been 2015 Worlds, I think was probably the first time, like not necessarily introduced to each other, but that was my first year as a junior. I definitely remember like seeing you guys around. From there, kind of probably the more I got into judging was probably the more times we had conversations.
That's a good point. Yeah, 2015. And why did you have to bring up 2015? I wasn't on the team in 2015. What happened? First time in the history of my life I didn't make the freestyle team. That was terrible.
It was the first year that I did.
That was a good Worlds to go to. It's hard to, Garburator is amazing. So all I did is I got to go fishing though.
Yeah, I definitely remember you fishing all the time.
The Speedo. I remember the Speedo.
Yeah.
The TV cameras getting a bit stressed. There'd be you like panning across and there'd just be you and your Speedos fishing off one of the rafts.
Somebody actually complained and they actually told me I wasn't allowed to go to the other side and fish out of the raft in a Speedo anymore. I actually got softly ejected from the venue.
So moving on, what does freestyle mean to you guys, like on a personal level? Like, if freestyle kayaking wasn't here, where do you think you would be? And since it is here, how does it impact your life, and what does it mean to you?
I'll let you start.
Now you start.
Okay. I think for me, like, it's just like a big family, like an international family that we have going. The thing I love about these events and what got me into judging for a bit was like seeing all my friends from around the world, people that I've not caught up with for possibly at times going on 6, 7, 8 years now, and feeling like you've been at the pub with them last week. And that is what freestyle is. And Honestly, if I wasn't here doing freestyle, I'd be on a river back in the UK for pretty much the same reasons. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's a good point. First, if there wasn't freestyle, we'd make freestyle, of course. Which is kind of what I've been fortunate enough to be around long before there was a thing called freestyle. It was called playboating. And that's what we did on the river at 15 years old. If you ran a river with my club, Merrimack Valley Paddlers, all you'd hear is me yelling, Ender, Ender, all right, get in the hole, get in the hole. And all we did was play the river in long fiberglass boats and then break them on the way down. So freestyle just evolved from that. And for me, it was the opportunity to keep trying to do new things. And eventually I was fortunate enough to be in a place where I started wanting to invent equipment and design equipment that would do stuff that couldn't be done before. So for me, freestyle was the ability to express. In fact, I love playing on the river, and I'm gonna do something. Oh, I thought of something cool. I'm gonna do that. And then ultimately it meant new boats. So it was a really neat wave to ride, to be on the front end of that. And of course, the people on the river that are playing, the people that around you that enjoyed playing the river, they were just trying to maximize what the fun was on the river. So the way I describe freestyle, and I call it freestyle now, I kind of didn't want to call it freestyle. I wanted to call it rodeo and playboating. Freestyle is a good name too. But anyway, I describe freestyle as just a way to show off how much you've been playing. So it's, which is what's cool about the sport. And that's what it means to me. It's not I used to be a swimmer, and you follow a black line to the end. And then when you get to the tee, you turn around and go the other way. And you do that like over and over and over and over and over. And then you go to a new pool, and it's got a black line with a tee on the end. They're all the same, a little colder, a little warmer, more chlorine. Otherwise, bottom line is like the variety isn't there. And that is even fun. So imagine having a competitive sport where you go to cool rivers and you get to surf this wave or that wave or this hole, that hole, and do anything. The venues change. And then and the proof of the pudding of what it freestyles to me is that it's a lifetime sport. How do you know? You don't retire from freestyle. Somebody may not show up to competitions, but then they're going to be out on the river, like you said, playing and just goofing off in the water anyway. So freestyle is about playing on the water to me. And if it didn't exist, I would just make it.
You play a lot. You'd like to play a lot, don't you?
Play a lot, yeah.
Yep. I've sort of, it would be remiss of me saying this. I would, if I didn't say it, I'd probably regret it. I think you're probably the most influential person in Whitewater. I don't think, we had a chat about this before. I don't see anyone who's got the longevity and done the things in the sport that you have. And if I was to say you're X amount of world champion, this Olympian, that, you sort of would be discounting half of your life. I'd have to say that I would call you the most, it's a big thing to say, but I think you are the most influential person in whitewater kayaking. That's my thought anyway. I mean,
I would you'd be hard to risk to find someone that's not been influenced in some level by what you've done, whether it be a boat they've paddled or the first boat they got into, or whether it's something you're doing or progressing the sport. 100%.
So kind of talk us through that. So you were designing boats for wave sport, and then you wanted to start Jackson Kayak. Walk us through that process and how basically you took freestyle to the level it is right now and started designing boats to do tricks easier.
Cool. Well, so again, it was playboating back then, and so before there was World Championships, it was just, you put whatever boat you had. And my old line used to be, it's not the boat, it's the motor. And I'm like how well you can do on a river, whatever. And then I showed up to the 93 World Championships on the Ocoee in a crossfire. And I'm like, yeah, I know people have the new acrobat, and then there's different moves, this pirouette and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, or pirouette-esque anyway. And I'm like, yeah, I can, doesn't matter. And then I got in there, and it was like, yeah, I can't throw enough ends to do that. And to win the event, it became clear all of a sudden it wasn't just the boat. It wasn't just the motor, it's the boat too. And that's when I switched gears, and luckily Mark Lyle on the Dagger team started working on a prototype, made the transition, which is actually an RPM. They called it the transition. It became the RPM a few years later. They busted out that prototype for that, and it was such a game changer on the equipment side. If we were referring to equipment, on the equipment side, that was such a game changer in my mind. Like, holy crap, if that's the case, then I want to make sure we have the best boats. And that boat I thought was the best boat for that event. So I was part of the Dagger team. I wasn't able to design boats, but ultimately I won the World Championships in Dagger. I'm like, oh, am I going to be like on the cover of the catalog now? Or like, are you going to use me in ads and stuff? And they're like, oh, we don't want to start an advertising war with perception. We're basically going to pretend that the worlds didn't exist. And yeah, it was like, wait, what? It's like, I've been wanting to be a world champion since I was like 18 years old. Now I'm 28 years old. I'm a world champion. I somehow imagined that, I'd be like the poster child for the company I was paddling for. Anyway, it didn't happen. Chan Zwanzig from Wavesport came to me and said, hey, EJ, I said, no, he came to me and said, EJ, anything I can do to help? I was like, well, what are you doing? Like, are you going to be making new boats and blah, blah, blah? I said, yeah, we're going to make new boats. If you want to be on the team, just let me know. And it's like, well, if I was on the team, would you like put me on the cover of the catalog and in ads and stuff like that? Or how would that go? And he's like, oh yeah, we'd make you a poster child. Like you're the world champion. I'm like, well, hell yeah. I'm going to be on Team Wavesport then. And then I joined the team. I wasn't a designer. Dan Brabeck and Chan designed the boats, but we made the Kinetic and I started paddling that. First it was a Frankenstein, which was okay. Then a Kinetic and I did that. But it came up to the X boat and they did 5 prototypes of an X boat. And now it's like, I want to win the worlds. How am I going to win a worlds? This particular boat wasn't working out and I was bummed. And it was like, I'm going to have to paddle this boat that isn't going to be competitive. So I knew a guy named David Knight that I was designing slalom boats with in DC. And I was like, hey, David, you want to design a play boat with me? And he's like, yeah. So we got together and we figured out everything we wanted to do. I wanted a boat you could squirt the way I said, I'm going to be able to squirt the bow and the stern. Everybody was making half slices. It was all half slices. The Whippets, the Acrobat, you name it. They're basically half slices from the 90s, right? And I'm like, I want a full slice. I want to be able to get the bow down and the stern down. And if you could get the bow and the stern down, you could cartwheel and like in flat water and stuff like that. Anyway, and luckily we built this prototype, made this boat, and it became the X. And then I jumped on that bandwagon right away and said, hey, Chan, I've got a Y, a Z, and a triple X ready to go. And I didn't really have it ready to go, but in my head. So anyway, that's kind of how the play boating or the designing started. And the opportunity was there. We made the X, and the X really put Wavesport on the map. But the other thing I did there was I recruited a team. So it was the first time there was Team Dagger or whatever, but it was like I got young people that were really good, that were motivated, that wanted to do the tour. Essentially, it wasn't like a tour that way. You had the Oregon crew, you had the Southeast crew, whatever. We're going to go everywhere and travel around and win all these events. And sure enough, we did. We had Eric Southwicks and Sam Drevos and myself and Billy Craigs and Erica Mitchells. And we just put this team together that was like completely dominating, and we were paying people. And then Dagger started doing the same thing. Dagger was like, well, they didn't want to pay people. Perception didn't want to pay people. Started paying people, not a lot of money, but enough that you could go tour around and do cool stuff. So we really created the team environment with Wavesport, and then ultimately that led to eventually when I started Jackson Kayak. Of course, that became no trade shows, no sales reps, and no advertising, 100% team marketing, period. You want a photo to use for the website? Well, the team is going to take it. Anyway, so those are some things that were important to me and how I ran those, how I got, from point A to point B was really focusing on team and other people being influential, because I knew what it was like to be on Team Dagger when they're like, you just win the worlds. And they're like, yeah, we're not even going to mention it, basically. And it was like, no. So my line, if you're on Team Jackson or now Apex, we're going to make you whitewater heroes. Like you're trying to be a whitewater hero. So we're here to help you do that. We can't make you do, you still have to perform, but we're going to make it as easy as possible. Anyway, so that's kind of the boat design and team aspect of it.
Awesome.
So there were obviously some challenges with Jackson Kayak in the early stages. You started something from completely scratch, and you were the only company to come out with a kids boat, which has changed the whole dynamics of kayaking, I would say, from that point onwards, getting kids in boats. Why did you do that? Obviously, you had Dane, who was quite young, but what was your motivation?
Yeah, I mean, before I started Jackson, there was several things going on. I opened up the whole East Coast of the U.S. for wave sport. I was a sales rep, and went to all the trade shows. So I knew everybody nationwide and around the world. And so I pulled. I mean, Wave Sport said, "Yeah, we're not." It wasn't Wave. Chan Zwanzig, he sold it, so it was American Capital Strategies owned it, so it was a venture capital firm. And I'm like, I've made a prototype for Dane. It's the prototype you see him paddling all the time, this orange one. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to put that in production. There's no market for kids' boats. It's like, well, that didn't sit well with me because I've got a little kid that really loves kayaking, and I'm making kayaks for really big people. Why can't I make one for my own son? And anyway, I left. I didn't start Jackson yet, but I started calling people, like all the dealers, and say, hey, I'm thinking of starting a whitewater kayak company and making some kids' boats. And they said two things. I pulled 80 dealers. Out of the 80 dealers, all 80 said, don't start a whitewater kayak company. There's a glut in the market. So I had not one dealer said it's a good idea, number one. I did my market research, and it was 100% no way, don't do it. And number two, 78 out of the 80 people said, if you ended up doing it anyway, the kids' boat is still stupid. Don't do it.
No.
So anyway, I took that market research and I started Jackson Kayak with a kids boat. And I immediately went into kids boats because I'm like, well, clearly they don't know what the hell they're talking about. and then that, the rest is history. So I had a different, anyway, that's, they didn't want another kayak company. It was like all the others, but I didn't make one like the others. I didn't force people to buy product. I said, buy what you can sell in 30 days, pay me in 30 days, we're done. There's no pre-seasons, nothing. You don't ever get overloaded. We'll help you sell them. And anyway, and it ended up working. So 78 of the 80 dealers also that said no, bought Jackson. And then the two that didn't, I'm not going to name the names, but the people that we're friends, but on one was in Washington, D.C. It was the biggest dagger and wave sport dealer in the country. So I started Valley Mill Boat Shop, and it became our number one. Colin Kemp did that one. I hired him to do that. Anyway, I set that business up from scratch. And then the other one was in Boise, Idaho, and I got Alpenglow to do it. And they became like super top dealers. So anyway, it ended up working out, obviously, and Jackson became the number one whitewater kayak brand in the world in 2006 and is still there now.
Wow. So looking back at all of that and all that's happened, what was probably like the most proud innovation you had or like product feature from Jackson Kayak that you can like put your name to and say, I did that?
There's a few. The first one would be, I said light, comfortable, durable, and dry. So my boats had no holes in them. So I designed an entire creek boats and play boats where you don't run a drill through it. And I'm not going to name names, but an average boat from, in the UK has 11 to 13 holes in it. From, in other Southeast U.S., there have 9 to 13 holes in it where you're literally taking a drill and then they wonder why it leaks. So, for example, and then the Happy Feet and the Sweet Cheeks, two other things that my Sherlock back band, the rope system, super light, super durable, infinitely adjustable. A lot of the market didn't accept it right away. My competitors, would tease, oh, you can't believe you're using those strings or whatever. And I'm like, well, whatever, man. I'll take my strings over your ratchets any day of the week, especially when you're on remote trips, creeking and stuff like that. You can fix it. It's safe. Anyway, the Sherlock, Unishock bulkhead, safest system out there. If you ask me, I think that if there was an overseeing body that was in charge of safety of kayaks, they would not allow the strap system that people have for bulkheads, because you piton in that, your heel goes through, you break your ankles, you're stuck in the boat, and it's not like it might happen, it happens. And anyway, so that bulkhead system that it created was also another one that I'm really proud of. But obviously, there's a lot of awesome product by a lot of companies out there, but if you ask me what ones I'm proud of, those are some ones. Sweet Cheeks and Happy Feet, 50% of the market, people are too smart for their own good. So they're like, yeah, like, I don't like those blow up bags or whatever. And it's like, well, you're not supposed to blow them up. But anyway, and they're like, well, I don't need to watch instructions. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I can figure it out. And it's like, well, yeah, apparently not. So anyway, those Happy Feet and Sweet Cheeks are also two that I'm super fired up on. And to this day, I think it's like super badass. But we stopped putting it in the boats full time because 50% of the people didn't like it and 50% loved it. So we just decided, let's just make the boats a lot cheaper to make and just put a piece of foam up front and a foam butt pad. And then we can sell them as accessories. So we made more money doing it that way.
Smart. I think we might just bring you in the conversation here, Charlie, because there's quite a lot going on right now. We're obviously here at the World Championships, and you are the head judge, which is a big responsibility. Let's just find out, how did you get involved in judging in freestyle kayaking?
So my first time like being involved, I was actually, was it 2018? I came over here for a German championship. I think there was me and like 2 other Brits, and we were the only internationals that were here. And it just happened purely by fluke that Terry and Sneaky, one of the chiefs for some previous events, was running a seminar here. And me and Ibo, and I think it was Emma, were the like example paddlers that they were using to judge, to train all the judges. And 2 weeks later, they were running a seminar in Nottingham, which was like an hour from where I was living at the time. I was like, hey, what can go wrong? Me and Ibo signed up for it. Hadn't really done any judging before. We were like, okay, especially for squirt boating, like we'd done a lot of float, like just being involved with it. I remember me and him up until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, going through rides and watching it, going, oh, we've got an exam on this in 2 days. And that was super exciting. And then got my grade, got an A grade, which I was super proud of. And then unfortunately, a year after that, I had quite a nasty back injury, which kind of put me out of competing for near on 6 years. And that then took me into judging pretty much full time. I have now judged every single ICF event since that year. I've done every World Cup, every Worlds. I've done every single senior men's at those events. So it was very much like thrown in the deep end.
How many is that?
What are we going on? 7 years in a row.
Wow.
And I've been doing these like as well as the ECA events and those things as well.
Not to interrupt, but you did hear him say he pulled an all-nighter for his judging test. That's awesome. You might be the only one in history. That's, no wonder you're a chief judge. That's amazing.
It definitely paid off, because before that, all-nighter squirt boating was a mystery to me. Back in that time, before I started doing the seminars and stuff myself, there was a grand total of about 4 squirt boat videos you could find online that were actual rides. There was the ones that you made, Jez, of Claro describing the tricks.
Yes.
And then there was a video of Claro in 2015 Worlds and a video of Stevo in 2015 Worlds. And that's all we had to go off. And then suddenly, like, you were just thrown in the deep end with it. Yeah. And then, like, the injury kind of forced my hand, or like the only way I'm going to carry on coming to these events is if I get more involved with the judging and the organizing and all of that stuff. Actually starting to look to go back the other way. Competed first time internationally last year, which was super exciting to be back in a boat. But yeah, it's been a bit of a long road, and it's really cool to be here and be in a seat that I never thought I would be in, which is awesome.
So you're saying your back is good? You can paddle?
Yeah. So I had my first international last year, which was the European Champs, and I was actually chief judge as well as a competitor, because there was a grand total of about 4 judges that could make it to the event. I actually ended up falling asleep before my quarterfinals ride because I was so involved with the judging, and I was up until they had no live scoring, so I was like writing a spreadsheet and coding some stuff for them to work that. And before my quarterfinals, I can't remember who it was that had a run before. It was someone like a Visa or a Tomash, or like someone that gives the judges a headache. So I was sat holding onto this rope, and it was probably the first time that event that I'd stopped, and like no one was asking me questions and nothing was happening. And I found myself like nodding off and like fell in like on the rope. Was like woke up pretty abruptly just before my rides. Needless to say, the quarterfinals did not go my way. I was like in the judges' stand about 5 minutes before that, but I was just super stoked to be in that crowd and be competing with those guys again. They're all my friends, which is awesome.
All right, welcome back to the competitive side. That's
awesome.
It's gonna
be sick. I'm going to be catching you guys up next year.
So what do you think is like the most misunderstood part of judging freestyle?
I think it depends on the aspect that you're looking at it from. From a spectator's point of view, and someone that doesn't understand the tricks, the all or nothing thing, I think, is the hardest bit to get across to people. Someone could go in and visually it could look like an incredible ride. But if all of their tricks are off by 10 degrees, it could score 0. And I've seen the outcome of that and heard the crowds, and when they're not seeing the score go up when someone's doing all of these flips, and getting that point across can be quite hard to a crowd. From a paddler's point of view, the hardest bit to get across is like the judges are on your side. We're happy when you're doing well. We're gutted when things don't go well. And we will do our best to score the most amount of points. So we like downgrading something or trying to find like what did go well. And we're there to try and award as many points as possible, not to take away points. And that's the point I want to get across to those guys.
Tell us, there's a bit of a backstory about how judges are trained and get certification. Just give us a bit of an understanding, because a lot of people wouldn't know how people do get trained and judge and become a judge at these competitions.
Yeah, so we run international seminars. I've been involved with those since, I think, about 2019. Kind of, again, found myself jumped in at the deep end. Josh Wedgwood, who was the chief judge for Argentina, was meant to be running one. I think it was actually at your house. It was meant to be happening there, and about a week before this event was happening, he suddenly had to pull out due to something else. And I had a call from the committee going, hey, can you go to America next week and do this thing? And I jumped on the plane, got given these PowerPoints that were not up to date, had about 10 videos, and like sat the whole time on the plane rewriting this seminar that I was giving to, like, in my head, I'm like, quite a not a huge name at the time in kayaking, going, I'm going to the Jackson's house doing something that's pretty new to me. I've only been judging for 18 months. Like, there was a bit of a, is this the right person to be doing this job? And turned up, and it was actually a really awesome week of 2 days of training. We do like float boating, we go over the rules, all the appendices, what everything means, and then work with them on that, and then do the same for the squirt boating the second day. And that's normally the trickier one for everyone. And then the third day, bit of a morning of revision, any questions you have, and then it's an exam. And the exam consists of, there's a written section that's like, do you know the definitions and the rules and those things? Then there's a video section where we play the same videos for everyone, and they just judge them, and we give them a grade according to how well they're going. We've now been running them, if anything, is picking up, and we're getting more and more judges. We've run them in Argentina, we've run them in Spain, we've done Ireland this year, like me and Mason have done some together. So yeah, it's picking up and it's getting better.
How many certified judges are there now?
We're getting close to about 70 or 80.
Oh, wow.
It's really, really picking up, especially the countries we've moved to a system where they can apply to have one. So rather than just us funding from the ICF side, where the budget can be quite small, like Ireland, when I went over there, it was all funded by the Irish Federation and went, hey, we really want this thing. So it's cool that that's happening now.
Cool. Do you have like a ranking system for judges? Like you know that these are like, I know they can come in levels, but
yeah,
are you like, oh, this is the best judge for men's surface boat, or for women, or for squirt, or whatever?
So we have a grading system. Currently, as it stands, you can either achieve an A or a B grade. An A grade means basically I can sit you in any seat for any category at any event, and I know you're just going to rock it and do what you need to.
How many A's are there?
Probably around about 30% A's.
So do you have this is the best A and this is the 30?
I definitely have
in your head
some in my head, like, they're better at C1, this person's better at squirt boating, and that's how, like, we work a team up. And then a B grade judge is, they're not allowed to come to a World Championships, but they can come to a World Cup, and we might team them up with some more experienced judges, and just by coming to that event, they can grade up and go, hey, we've worked with you and it's moved stuff out.
You're always looking for a ranking system, aren't you? Who's on top? I want to win that. I want to win the judging comp. How do I do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, judging isn't, especially as moves go fast. And, I literally have a move called Dazed and Confused that I used specifically. I watched events where if somebody went really, really fast and maybe threw some low, I'm not going to name names. They were low angle, but they're going so fast, the judges can't keep up. They're not keeping up, and they're going back to, so literally my opening line in 2013 is Dazed and Confused. And it was just a series of, entry moves like cartwheels, split wheels, lunar orbits, cartwheel, split wheel, clean, and then just back and forth so fast, with all linked in a way that, but they're linked, clean, that you just give them everything, and then and then do the hard moves, because they're sitting there going, what the hell? Anyway, it's called Dazed and Confused. So I'd look at the judges and be like, I think 2 out of 3 that'll work on.
Yeah, we definitely like team up knowing, like, I know some judges are really snappy with the bonuses. Some judges are really snappy with the angles. Like, you definitely get some judges that are slightly stricter on some things and some judges that are slightly lenient. And I try and team up and put people together going, okay, you kind of offset this. And that's what I've spent the last kind of couple of days going, is who's going with who's more lenient, who's stricter on this, and how do I balance that as a team?
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
So kind of moving into that, how do you like train your eye or train your judge's eye to detect that stuff so quickly? Like, it's happening, like EJ said, like dazed and confused. Like, how as a head judge are you kind of like making sure your judges are staying consistent, seeing the same thing and all that stuff?
It's a process that definitely leads up to the event. It's not something that just happens when we get here. Since we picked the judges team, like a few months ago now, I've been sending them little clips and videos of, hey, what do we think about this? For example, like, I got Mason to go onto the wave and throw some like donkey flips, because chances are no one's going to throw them in the ride, but I'd rather have the conversation 2 weeks before the event. And for that particular trick, there's so many little aspects that have to be set for it to score, and one judge might be able to see it and one judge might not, but it allows us to have that conversation as a team outside of the event and the pressure. The hardest rides to do is definitely always the first heat of the day, because I've got to make sure that whatever decision those judges are making on that first heat also goes for the 13th heat that's going to be in 4 or 5 hours time. My job isn't necessarily judging every athlete. It's to make sure that if Chelsea or Ibo or Dan has made a call for that's their borderline for McNasty's, that they'd give the same for later on. And that's become harder, especially as we've now seeded athletes, because we see that either the new people that haven't been to a Worlds before or the lower rankings first, and we need to make the same calls on them as we're going to make on you, on Dane, on Nick, on like Kim. And that's a really hardest bit to do.
Well, just for most of us here in the room kind of understand it, but for people who may not understand it, walk us through how the actual scoring works for World Championships.
Yeah, so the buzzer, their time starts as soon as they hit the wave. So once they're all ready, and I might know everyone's ready,
Can we call it a hole?
Yeah, we can call it a hole.
Is it me, or did you notice that they've been calling this a wave the whole time? I'm like, which part of this is a wave?
I was throwing blunts on there the other day.
That is true. There is a wave component. That's fair enough.
We'll call it a feature. We'll meet you midway.
How about a wave hole?
It is a wave. I like that. Okay, cool.
So yeah, they're like, the last person that paddler's going to see is going to be me giving them a thumbs up. As soon as I've given them that thumbs up, they come down, hit the feature. When they hit that, their time starts at that point. As soon as they cross that line, that timer clock starts, and they have 45 seconds to do as many big scoring tricks as they can. And every single trick in the appendices has a set definition. So something like a front flip, we'd call it a loop in freestyle, and it is just a flip. But the definition has to say that it has to land within 20 degrees of the flow of the water. And they're the kind of things that we're looking for. The harder the trick, the more the points, probably the more complicated the definition gets. Every single trick is then scored individually by each judge, and each judge can then associate some bonuses with it. Bonuses we have air, which is anytime the boat leaves the water. We also then have huge, which is probably the crowd's favorite bonus, which is when the boat just goes massive above the water, but gets the biggest cheers. The other kind of 3 bonuses we have clean and super clean, which is all about them using their paddles or their hands or not using them more specifically. And then we have a link bonus of if they're flowing from one trick to the other super, super well. Once they've done their 45 seconds, all 3 judges figure out their score individually. They're all added up and then divided by 3, and then that's their overall score. So they get an average between the 3.
Speaking of rides, I have a question for both of you guys. We'll start with EJ. For your competition ride, are you going in there with a set plan? Because I know some athletes have a very direct plan of what tricks they're going to do when and stuff like that. And then for Charlie, as a judge, if you see these athletes go through the rounds and they do have this ride, do you kind of think that, oh, this is coming up, this is what I'm looking for? Or are you like always expecting the unexpected?
Well, there's no question that the top athletes have not only have a specific set of moves, but the order of the moves. Because if you want to optimize your score, you can't waste time. So, for example, people will go from a front move that lands backwards, and they won't turn around and do another front move. They'll go straight into a move that you start backwards in, for example. So yeah, people are definitely doing move to move. But because there's so many variables, the hole can bubble up or whatever, and maybe it's not good for a phonics monkey at the moment, and maybe they'll wait and put it later. So even the best people, or they're in the wrong spot and they didn't land the move right, so they'll definitely change. But there's no question that if you're watching, the best people, you know what their ride is probably going to be just from a few training rides, or at least the majority of it. They might bust out some cool stuff, but you can see what people are going to do.
Yeah, like it's definitely noticeable when people have plans. I've noticed more through the years, like some athletes come with a full 45-second plan. Some athletes come with, they call them chunks, which might be 2 or 3 moves, and those chunks might move or vary depending on, like you're saying, bubbles, churns. If they get turned around, they might move to a different chunk. Everyone is always like, they think that finals is going to be the most stressful thing to judge, but by that point, we've probably seen them do their ride going on 10, 11 times, plus the training, plus everything else that we're watching. The prelims is probably the hardest one to do because you don't know what they're going to go in and do necessarily. The best we've got is their training, and it's rare to see them do their full ride in training.
Yeah. Look, I've got a question a bit for both of you, because we've been moving more towards the technology. And what kind of role does the technology play in the judging? And are we too reliant now on technology? I remember the days when we'd be going in and using a scribe, pen and paper, and, we still do it. We still see it at a lot of competitions. But do you think we're too reliant on tech?
I don't think we're too reliant. I've seen more of a trend that the tech's being used for the crowd and for everyone back at home. And I think that's the most exciting innovations we've seen. 2019 SORT was the first year that we ever had live scoring. And it was this big contentious thing when it first went up. They were like, oh, we're going to tell you what your score is while you're having your ride. It definitely changed the sport and how people think and how coaches work specifically. But for a crowd perspective, it's been really exciting they kind of have started to understand what the tricks are. There definitely is a bigger and bigger reliance on it every year. And it's an expense at these events, and going, how do we bring that technology, make it cheaper, that the events that are smaller and more local can have the same kind of crowd atmosphere, but on a smaller scale.
Do you think that the sport has become easier or harder to judge in the last decade, depending on like new tricks or different styles emerging in the recent years?
Oh, like, because you've been judging for your like more American events, but going all the way back from the rodeo style, have you found it's getting harder or getting different? Or
every time we make a new move, I would say the last 10 years it's probably getting easier because the number of new moves is a decline. It's kind of plateaued there. So it used to be that every event, the goal is to show up with a move nobody'd ever seen before, and then you got a whole mess of things like, other competitors don't want a new move. I've never even seen that. Like, we shouldn't allow that. We don't know what it is or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then, but you show judges, and if you can really demonstrate, then it's like, oh, what is this? What's the definition? It's like, well, whatever the athlete tells you the definition is. So it's like, this is what a McNasty or lunar orbit or whatever is. And they're like, okay, well, show it. So I thought that was a harder period. I can list off a whole bunch of moves that didn't make the cut that people were like, yeah, we're not counting that for different reasons. But I would say it's getting easier because people know what's happening. They know what moves to look for, and they're used to seeing them. And a lot of people are doing it. Not like one or two people have there used to be that myself or somebody else was the only person that could do that move. And now, like, everybody can do all the moves pretty much, which is really cool. So I think it's easier, but it's going faster, which makes it harder. But you see a move, most moves you see, and you know what it is right away. That'd be what do you think? Yeah,
no, I would agree. Like, it's definitely getting quicker. We're seeing the scores getting bigger. We're getting closer and closer to breaking that 2000 record at ICF, and might see it here. We might not, depending on the water levels. I think it's on the top guys and the top women, like all the C1ers, like the top level, that's not the difficult level. It's the mid range where we're seeing the borderline stuff of that's going to be the hardest ones to do because the speed of those guys is still high, but the definition or the crispness of their trick is then where the challenge then comes in.
EJ, have you ever disagreed with a scoring call at an event? Have you ever said, you know what, I got that move, it felt good, and you didn't see it on the board?
Oh, that happens all the time. Yeah, there's no question. Different events, here, my last Worlds here, I did a front loop air screw combo was my move. And it wasn't, clearly it's not, it was, it'd land on the stern and I'd basically be pointed at the sky and kind of do an air screw. And did I jump out of the water? Was it aerial for 270? No, because can you do that here? Not that I know of, but I thought it was cool, whatever. And I did that in prelims. I was like third in prelims, but I got 0 points for that. And I was like, you got to do something. Like, it's cool. It's my new move, like, I don't know. Don't call it a front loop, call it a trophy move, whatever. But, stuff like that happens. You see, the main areas, generally speaking, I'll preface the whole thing by saying I'd rather be an athlete in freestyle kayaking than any other sport where there's a judge for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I don't care what anybody says, there's bias. If you're a French judge or an American judge or a German judge or a British judge and your person's going or somebody that you don't want to win's going, either way, you're sitting there thinking, God, I really hope that my person does really good or really hope that person doesn't beat my person or whatever. Even no matter how hard you try, you're trying. But in, let's say, figure skating, you watch the whole thing and you know that the last person got a 9.2. All you have to do is say 9.3. If you want, and you put them in the lead. But with freestyle, you don't have any idea what the athlete's going to do. You go entry 2, front loop, clean, and you just you don't know what they're going to do. So you would have to somehow skew so that the bias is almost completely eliminated in a big way. And you get all the way to the end and the judge still doesn't know whether that person beat the other, their person or your person beat everybody else or not. So it takes all this pressure out. Anyways, point is that it's very objective. When I started freestyle kayaking, when it was called rodeo, it was a 1 to 10 system, and it was like the worst thing of all time. And I've done everything I can over the years to make sure there's no subjective judging in freestyle kayaking. When I say subjective, let's give them a score from 1 to 100. Just pick a number. And the reason is because I've very personal experience over and over. I'll go in and do a front loop or front ender with a full pirouette and land right side up, one hand on the paddle. And somebody else will go do a 180, fall off to the side on their head and they'll get a 9. I'll get a 7. It was like, why? Because that judge wants that person to win. And it's like, no. So freestyle, we eliminated all that. And there's always new people that come in and are like, oh, we should add subjective. This person has really good style. It's like, well, what is style? Like, this person's a beast and their style is to be a beast. And this person's, super slight and whatever, and whatever, they have their pinky out. I don't know. That's like, which style do you like? Well, I like the beast mode, So anyway, point is freestyle. There's no question that you go in and there's things you don't like the way so-and-so did way higher score than you thought because their moves weren't even close to definition. You'd look at it, or then somebody gets a lower score, than you think, and it happens. But the reality is that's true in everything. There's no perfect system. Everybody has an internal protractor, and all you can do is the best you can do. I would take the scoring for freestyle over any other sport that's judged. Like I'm all in on it. I've been all in it a long time. As long as we keep doing like we're doing objective judging with subjective brains, using a protractor, 20 degrees, 45 or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's super interesting to hear it from like a paddler point of view. Because obviously being a paddler as well as a judge, like there's definitely times where I've entered competitions and I felt like I've done a trick and it's not been scored. Like it's not a unique thing and it's going to be an athlete thing no matter what. But the bias thing is definitely something that's hard to manage. And like you said, I purposely, events that I run when I chief, I make sure that the judge that's judge 1 has no idea what judge 2's score is. And judge 2 has no idea whose judge score 3 is. And then I make sure that they have no access to the live overall scores. So once that's
really?
wiped off,
That's
we go.
interesting.
So my judges team don't know. And like I've done it.
Is that a new thing?
It's something that's kind of worked its way in. It's something that like Shep did as well. And like when I've judged a men's finals, everyone else is celebrating who won, and the 3 judges that were judging it was like, who was it? Like, can someone tell us? Because we have no idea.
Is that so? I had no idea.
So the chief judge will know, but the 3 judges, we try and keep that away from them to eliminate the bias. The other thing that I found over the years of chiefing and judging is the bias often goes the other way. So if you've got someone that knows someone really well, I find I'm actually often more telling them like, hey, it's okay, you can give them that trick, because they're so scared of being seen to be biased, especially since the live scoring's come in.
I do have a trick for you that we've done over the years. It's actually pretty cool. It's different than what you're doing now.
Yeah.
It's where you have your 3 judges and somebody's always the middle judge.
Yeah.
And the goal is to not be the high judge or the low judge, be the middle judge. So literally you're ranked, you as a judge, it's how many, like you've got a check mark, boom, boom. And every time you're the middle judge, you get a point. And there's a reward for being a middle judge. And you're hailed as, and that's how you're ranking judges, how many times you're in the middle. Because every time you even think of going, you're like, oh, I'm going to be outside, I know that it was questionable, like benefit of the doubt goes to the paddler, but that wasn't actually anywhere near, I can't do that, I'm not going to give that one or whatever. And it really, all of a sudden, the judges, they don't care what the athlete's doing. They just want to win the competition.
That could be quite fun.
Competing. It's pretty fun. Anyway, it's worth trying. You got to
have to give that a go on one of the side events this year, because we've got cadets and masters, and that might be a fun, like, give that a go and see how that goes and see if the judges like that one. Beer's a good reward. Definitely.
So a case of beer for the winner.
There's definitely always a case of beer in the judges' tent for the end of the day. It's a
something
must.
Else.
Nice. Look, if you could change something about the scoring system, if both could right now just wave a magic wand and be like, I want to do this, and this could completely change the whole dynamics of the sport, what would you do? What would you change? Or would you leave it as it is?
I think we're in a pretty good spot at the moment with what it is. The 2 things that I know you've asked for 1, but I would ask for 2. The first one would be how quickly we can add new tricks in. I think the process of adding new stuff is a bit of a challenge, and there's a bit of a hesitancy of adding new stuff, whereas I'd love to throw in like Jedi flips and Vader flips and the stuff that occasional paddlers are doing and go, hey, here's the definition. If you can do it, you can do it, but this is the score. The other thing and the bonus that I love that the French use is a vertical bonus. Yeah. So a vertical bonus. So all of our cartwheels in ICF are 45. Whereas the French have an above, I think it's like 65 or 70, that if they're like absolutely nailing all of their cartwheels, all their lunars, all their phonics, that they're getting a bonus for that. And you see it in the way that the French paddle. Their paddling is so spot on at 90, and it'd be really cool to reward that.
Well, that's cool.
What would you change? What would you change if you had the power, if you had your magic wand?
Generally, like I said before, most of this stuff I think is awesome. I would go back to, so, we're doing linking moves, so back loop McNasties are from 2003, but you don't finish, you do a back loop and then you don't set it down, you turn and you throw a front loop out of it. I believe we should still just that should be a back loop McNasty and link. We shouldn't add a different move. Lunar loop, you do a lunar orbit, you turn, you throw a loop out of it. Same thing, and instead of just calling them new moves, because really you're trying to link 2 moves together. And yeah, can you make an argument both ways? Yeah, but I think it simplifies the system and it allows you what moves you're doing. And then the next one is I would add, kind of like Charlie was saying, I would add, instead of just a verticality, I would add technical back in.
Yeah.
You have 3 judges, either 2 are variety and 1's technical. We used to call it variety and technical. Variety being like you score the moves. Technical, you score. So if somebody wants to go out and bang out a 10-pointer, that's cool. It's like somebody does a 2-point cartwheel. I don't care what you say. A 10-pointer is more badass than a 2-pointer.
Yeah,
100%.
But the score doesn't reflect it.
No.
So, somebody who's getting vertical and a 45-degree 10-pointer and the way technical used to work, it was 1 for flat, 2 for, 30 to 60, and then 60 to 120 was 4, right? So 1, 2, or 4. And then so a technical judge, all they have to do is sit there and go 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 4, 4, 4, 4. And that also achieves the same thing that Charlie's talking about. It gets your ends vertical. I mean, I know back in the day, my coaching, like when we were out training at Rock Island, we had one slogan. It was like, nothing but vertical, man, nothing but vertical. So every time you're about to go in the hole, you're sending somebody in the hole, you're like, dude, nothing but vertical. And I literally used to say, I'd go to an event and I would say, dude, I'd tell the judges before I'd peel out, I'm like, dude, don't count anything but 4s. I don't want any 1s or 2s because those are lame. It's not the word I use, but anyway. And I want 4s only. So they're like, are you serious? Don't count them. If they're 1s and 2s, I don't want them. It says, nothing but vertical. And that was the deal. Anyway, but what it does is it forces that. It gets, like Charlie said, the ends. So anyway, that's what I would do. So technical and separate out. I would just allow the moves that are now getting new names because, we didn't really complete that first one before you did the second one. I would eliminate that and just be like, you can do a tricky into a loop combo. And by the way, it's worth more points. You can't double up, but do you really want to see somebody double up? That's my point. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you both have been all over the world kayaking, competing. What are some of the funniest moments you guys have had on the river, around the river, at competitions? I want to hear about them.
The funniest moments aren't always on the river. It's normally the evenings after is probably the funniest ones, but I'm not going to name names and shame anyone for any of those evenings. But I think it's just people trying silly things. Like, you can have as much fun on a grade 2 as you can on a grade 4 or grade 5. Like, people pushing eddy lines and stupid little swims over whirlpools or like mucking around. And that's always the most fun thing on the river for me.
Well, certainly at events, kind of on a different note, there's a lot of funny things. I'll tell you, I think I can name names. I'll tell you, there's a dude named Shorshi. He's a German guy. Yeah. He's super awesome, young Pirates guy. I met him at the 93 Worlds on the Ocoee, so that's a long time ago, however long that is, 32 years ago. And we're down, there's no alcohol allowed on State Park. Well, we're down at Hellhole, and there's a platform for judges' platform and everything. It's overlooking the hole. Sure, she's done paddling for the day, brings a 6-pack of beer, pops one, starts drinking. Of course, the ranger's up there, runs right down, and it's like, you can't drink beer here, whatever. And sure, she's obviously German. He can speak some English, but he spoke English. But anyway, and Lance was the ranger. He's like, you have to put that beer down. He says, well, why? Well, it's because you're not allowed to drink beer. What kind of place you can't drink beer, whatever. Well, where are you from? Germany. I'm running in because obviously Shorshi's not playing along, and the ranger's getting a little upset. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I'm going to arrest him if he doesn't put that beer down. I'm like, Shorshi, yeah, you can't drink beer here. And whatever. And then he's like, I don't trust you you have to dump the beer out. And Shorshi's like, no, it's illegal to dump beer out in Germany. I'm not breaking the law. So they're like, well, I'm going to arrest you if you, like, literally, I'm going to arrest you if you're like, no. Okay, maybe you dump the beer out. So Shorshi doesn't have to break a law, and then he won't break an American law or a German law. So the ranger pops the beer and starts dumping it. Shorshi's just going, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I am
dying on the inside.
Yeah, he's swearing over and over and over, just nonstop, just saying F, F, F. And the ranger's like, you better stop that or I'm going to arrest you. I'm like, he's just watching you, break the German laws and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this whole exchange was just unbelievable. And it drew a crowd, and that was an example. Well, the reason I brought that one up, because Shorshi's here, of course, and it's 2025. So 32 years later, and he's probably up to the same antics. So if you want to see something funny on the river, go to the Young Pirates place, and we're guaranteed something funny is going to happen.
How do you guys prepare and decompress after a competition? Like, there's a lot going into it. There's a lead up. You have to get ready. You have to, both for judging and for us, obviously on the water. How do you get ready for it? But then also, how do you de-stress after the event?
For me, getting ready for it is a lot of just prep work. The more prepped I am for these events, the easier the event goes. So it's a lot of like online meetings, which I'm sure you guys know about and you've been up to a lot as well. Decompressing wise, for this event, there's the natural games the week after, and I'm going, like, I am judging, but I'm not involved. I've purposely said I'm not doing any meetings. I'm not chiefing. I'm just come in and entering the boat across, entering freestyle, and just getting back on a river is kind of my decompress zone. It's pretty much exactly the same for competing for me as well. If I'm on there, if I'm prepped and if I'm ready, the competition goes smoothly. If I've not put the prep in, then I get stressed, and then I go kayaking for fun and remind myself why I love it, and that's my decompress after.
Obviously, a lot of athletes, every athlete has their own system. You know, me, I want to have fun. I've got, I'm fortunate enough to have my family here, so I get to do family time while we're here. Everybody's here. You know, months ago, of course, it's training, training at Rock Island, training around, getting my moves in, being physically fit. I skipped GoPro games. The rest of the family didn't. They went to GoPro games and they came on Monday. I decided to skip it so I get some extra training in. So being here in advance, I thought was worthwhile. I like doing that. And you kind of get the lay of the land. You get past jet lag, more or less, all that kind of fun stuff. As far as decompressing, I don't know. I don't consider the world's that stressful, really. It's like a lot of fun. It's basically like you've got a ticket to the big show, and obviously you want to perform well. But I've done a lot of these, and, I learned a long time ago that these aren't make or break moments. A lot of people are like, oh, it's do or die. And if I don't do well, it's going to change or if I win, it's going to change my life forever. It's like, yeah, no. You can, one can be better than another in quite a lot of ways, but one is also better than other in other ways. So not winning often makes a better paddler than winning, because they're like, if they're motivated to do well, they'll go back and train harder and be better, whatever. So anyway, the stress levels are fairly low, but the main thing for me is it forces me to be fit and be good. And so as long as you're continuing to do that, I'm 61 now, getting older doesn't look the same as if I was not doing it,
Yeah, so actually touching on that just quickly, you correct me if I'm wrong, you've got your son, your daughter, and your grandson as well.
And son-in-law.
And son-in-law. Like, that's a lot. There's like, would you have ever thought that you could have such a huge, that's a massive family environment. Like, everyone's grown up in the industry, seen you guys on the water, and I mean, it must be pretty awesome to see the whole family be here and come full circle, really.
Yeah, no, well, it's super cool. I mean, when the kids got into it, when basically Emily and Dane both learned to roll in 2003, and we had the Worlds in Graz, and they went to Graz, but they weren't paddlers. We came back that year, and they really started paddling. And 2004 comes around, and the kids are really good at paddling real quick. And we went to Australia for the pre-World Championships. And you didn't have to make the team that year. You just show up and compete. But then the 2005 Worlds, I'm like, holy crap! Can you imagine? Like, I've been doing this for whenever that is, 2005. So, 20 years I've been on the U.S. team or whatever, 10 years or 15, whatever it is, a long time. Can you imagine if my kids were on the U.S. team with me? That would be like, man, I got to make sure I'm good enough to be on the team with the kids. And then it happened like the first year, 2005, they both made the team. Like, what? Well, I need a new goal. And then it was like, can you imagine if I was on this senior team with Dane? Oh, Dane was like 11 then, right?
Yeah.
It's like 7 years from now. Like, man, I got to keep my shit together. So, and then all of a sudden, 2013, he makes the senior team. Then it was like, and then we got a podium together. And then before that, of course, my son-in-law, Nick, made the team, and he made the team and beat me in World Championships in 2009, that was super cool. And now it's like the whole cadet thing. What do you mean this cadet thing? Oh yeah, this cadet thing, Tucker's doing it. Like, what? Oh, that's kind of cool. Like, so obviously it's like, but you don't have to qualify for the team. Same thing. It's like, all right, when he makes the junior, goes to trials, makes a junior team, well, that'd be cool. Grandson on the senior team. Oh, that's bad.
Where does it stop?
It doesn't stop. There's no stopping. Stopping is, no reason to stop if you're having fun, right? So, but that concept, like, I don't know, he's 11, so 7 years from now, he'll be a senior. Well, I don't even know if he'll be doing it. I don't know, but he seems to like it. We'll see.
So for you, like, what's next for after this comp for both of you? I know you said you're going to be going to natural games, but what's the rest of your year look like? You're going to keep moving forward with comps, keep judging?
Yeah, so the rest of my year is to get the other side of the judges stand is the rest of my year. I want to be stepping back a little bit, which is easier said than done. I think like the more you get involved with these stuff, as soon as you're volunteering, people are like, yeah, we'll drag you in. The rest of my year for me is to get back in my boat, to start training. We got the natural games in 2 weeks that I'm trying to train for. And then there's a European Cup in Nottingham. So like 5-minute bike ride from my house. And that's my goal for the rest of the year. And then hopefully to be back for next Worlds and make the team, which isn't easier said than done. We're not an easy country to make the team, but yeah, be back in a boat and away from the judges stand, which is my main goal.
Awesome. What's next for you?
Let's see. I'm not 100% sure. I get home. I'll be back at Rock Island. I think we've got really good water at Rock Island. So I live in Rock Island, Tennessee, and we've got an amazing river there. So after Worlds, I go straight back to Rock Island. I'll be paddling there, and I think Dane comes back there, so I have him to hang out with. Unfortunately, I asked him, "Will you be able to play disc golf?" You know, he's hobbling around on crutches. He's like, "What about ping pong? At least you can do ping pong, right?" So I think Dane will be able to paddle with me. Emily and Nick and the grandkids are still on tour for a while. I won't see them until October, but Dane will be there, so I'll pal around with Dane this summer, which will be super fun. Got to get his knee where he can like do fun things though. It's like, what's the point? You can't even do anything. Fix your knee, man.
All right, we've been going for quite a while. I'm going to go with a couple of final round quickfire questions. I'm just going to rattle them off and see what you got for us here. Let's start off with, what's your favorite kayak move of all time?
Tricky loop.
EJ?
Yeah, what's yours?
5 favorite or what?
One favorite move, kayak move of all time.
Single favorite move, McNasty for sure.
Most beautiful river you've ever paddled?
The Nile, the local White Nile.
Most beautiful. Ooh, Bear Creek in Alabama.
Yeah.
Georgia.
One word to describe your relationship with kayaking.
Ooh, that's a bit trickier. I'd probably go with like family. Like it's just one big family to me.
Oh, that's a good one. Like one word?
One word?
One word for kayaking.
One word.
Oh, it's, fun.
Fun. You named a kayak after that, didn't you? Who would you like to see compete that hasn't?
Ooh. Not necessarily one person. I'd love to see a judges competition at these events.
Yeah.
Just like a one-off half hour and get the athletes to judge us. It would be good fun.
Yeah, I'd like to see the junior parents compete, and I'd like to see the junior kids coach them.
Yeah, totally mix it up.
Yeah.
Like a reverse order sometimes. And what's the one piece of gear you can't live without?
Other than the usual safety stuff, like earplugs and nose plugs.
Yeah.
I find like if I don't wear those on the water now, like I'm paying for it for the next 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
What was that question?
One piece of gear you can't live without.
My kayak.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the chat. This was fun. I enjoyed it, really. Thank you, Charlie.
Great.
Thank you, EJ. Thank you, Mason. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, guys.
Good luck on the water, by the way.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you guys out there. And good luck judging.
Thanks very much. It'd be good fun.
Yeah, it'll be great. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
No worries.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.